Hi, Robert.
Hey, hey,
How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good.
Good.
I have kind of a welcome slide up right now, but I'll take it down when we get started, and we'll introduce everybody to you. So glad you're here. We'll get started in just a few minutes.
Awesome.
There you are. Yeah,
Make sure my camera works. My microphone works good.
sure. Here, I'll stop sharing so you can see how it looks.
There we are.
There we go, and there I am.
Awesome.
Good.
Awesome.
We'll have people joining over the next little bit, and
Okay.
we'll get started probably right about 1:00. So
Okay.
we have some of the most important people in the covenant that have joined so far: Jordan Myers, Jeff Palmer, and Eric Anderson. Glad you guys are here. If you guys like to type into the chat, who you are, where you're from, introduce yourself to Robert, and that'd be great. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share the screen again for our welcome slide.
Awesome.
There we go. All right, we're just about there. We got a few more minutes. If you just joined us, please let us know who you are in the chat. Type in, we got your name, so type in where you're from, what church or ministry you're with, if that's appropriate, and tell us a little about yourself. All right, I think I got all the things set up and ready to go. We still have a couple more minutes. Are you there in your home in Texas today, Robert?
I am.
How's the weather? Is it cooling off there, or is it ever cool out there?
It's turning cold. It's we are seeing the last little wave of warmth for a minute. So there's a cold front coming through. A cold front for here in Texas is 55 degrees. So it's a cold front.
Our friends from Minnesota can tell you about cold fronts.
Yes, I heard Grand Rapids and Jordan's from Grand Rapids. Eric from Minnesota. I heard it's gonna get pretty cold there the next couple of days too.
Yeah, I think we're getting into the get ready for cold weather. Here in Portland, it really feels like winter. Winter is here. It's been rainy, cold, and mid 40s. That's kind of like all winter for us, rainy and mid 40s. And we're here, we're there. Yeah.
What's the coldest it gets in Portland?
We'll have maybe 2 or 3 weeks in the winter where it gets down into the teens.
Okay.
And I think the lowest I've ever seen it is maybe around 10 degrees.
Okay.
But it'll pop right back up to 40, a week later. So it's like depends on the weather patterns. There's the Columbia Gorge is here. That's the Columbia River. And
yep.
Sometimes the wind shifts so that we get what we call the gorge wind, and it comes directly down the gorge from like central and eastern Washington and Oregon, and then that causes the temperature to plummet here in Portland. The bummer is what it does though is it causes us, instead of getting like some nice snow, we get freezing rain, and so it's like super dangerous and uncomfortable. And you go outside in the morning and there's like an inch or 2 of like ice encasing your car. That's how we get.
Yeah.
Jeff already got snow. Look, Jeff's all the way up over there in Washington. You've already got snow, Jeff? I'm impressed.
Yeah, we're on the tip of the jet stream. So whenever something comes down from Canada, it dips right on the edge of North Texas. So we catch it, but it doesn't get too bad. But I'm jealous of Angela in Florida. She had to turn her air conditioning back on today. So while we're preparing for the cold, she's in the sun.
Yeah. But that's pretty much all year, right? And in some parts of
Florida,
kind of increasing going on. Yeah. Yeah, all through the year.
Yeah, jealous.
I don't think I could live in that. I'm so used to the colder weather. I can do it. So. Yeah, I imagine like Christmas time. Like it's not feel like Christmas at all. Like that bad with that cold weather. So. Christmas time in like shorts and Hawaiian shirt.
Right.
Right. Yeah. We really should commission someone to write like our CovYouth 101 theme song that we can be playing or something during this like pre-webinar time and lead right up to getting started. But we don't have that yet. Maybe we can put that in the budget for next year. Well, I see a few more people are jumping in, and we're really glad to have you. We'll get started officially in just a moment. In the meantime, feel free to type it in the chat who you are, where you're from, and today is all about the weather forecast. So let us know what the weather's like for you, where you live in the world, and we're going to get started here in like just 1 minute. Linda had to use the AC in her car, but then it's going to snow. That's like huge whiplash. They go from using AC to expecting snow. That's a good one. I wonder if we would get a copyright infringement tag on YouTube, because all our videos ultimately end up on YouTube. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and get us started then, as long as you're ready, Robert.
Good to go.
Welcome everyone to our Covenant Youth 101 webinar on relational discipleship. Really glad you're here with us today. We have I think what's going to be one of the most important topics to talk about, and that is relational discipleship. And we've got a great guest here with Robert, which I'll introduce in just a moment. So buckle up. I think we're going to have a great time together. Just as a reminder, we do these Covenant Youth 101 webinars every month, and we are developing a suite of resources that are going to be covering the essential skills and topics to thrive in youth ministry. We already have several that we've done, and they are available at CovYouth.com in the training session. And this one will end up there pretty soon, next couple of days. So if you want to go back and watch it, you're welcome to do so by finding it there. And as always, as we go through these webinars, we encourage you to write questions you may have in the chat. And at the end, we will take time to do a question and answer time along with our guests. So our very special guest is the highly esteemed Robert Purvey. Today, he is the Director of Partner Strategy for 10x10. You're going to hear more about 10x10 and their relational discipleship emphases in a little bit. But before we get to that, Robert, why don't you just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what makes you tick?
Well, Eric, thank you. Thank all of you. We're brothers and sisters now, so I consider anybody who I meet that does work in the kingdom is family to me. So, super excited about
that's good.
All of you. So, here in Dallas, Texas, born and raised in Houston, Texas. I've been doing next gen ministry and work with a youth in the community for almost 20 years now, and came to 10x10 because I love the mission and the vision of 10x10 and what they're about and how it brings me into relationship and connection with people like yourselves. And so what makes me tick is just being around leaders that want to do the work. I love being around people that like to work. I do not like lazy people at all, right? If you want to work, I want to be around you. And that's anything. That's if we're building a house. That's if we're digging ditches or changing lives. I want to be around people who want to work. And so I'm grateful to be here to share and to connect. And I hope this is the beginning of just some lifelong connections and relationships with all of you.
Good. Thank you, Robert. Really glad you're here. I got to meet Robert for the first time a couple of weeks ago when myself and Matt Alseth and Jenny Olson got to go to the 10x10 launch summit. It was a great event. And at that event, I saw Robert in action and really quickly thought he would be a perfect person to invite to come to this webinar to help us to understand what 10x10 and its relational discipleship emphases are all about. So good job at that event. And thank you so much again for being here. So let's jump into our topic today. I'm going to go ahead and share my slides and we'll get that one going right here. So this is our title slide for the webinar, Relational Discipleship. So when we talk about relational discipleship, we're talking about a few different things. And a lot of times, youth workers, probably one of the first things that we feel called to is building relationships with students. And that's a big part of that. But what we're going to talk about today in this month, what we're really unpacking is this idea that relational discipleship takes into consideration every important relationship around a student. This includes a relationship with Jesus, obviously, and the youth leader, but also mentors, parents, peers, and the world around them. And I think sometimes youth workers can kind of miss the mark a little bit when it comes to relational discipleship because they think that they tell themselves that I went to my students' volleyball game, and so I've built a relationship. But relational discipleship is much more than just hanging out with students. It's much more than just getting to know them on a personal level. Another easy mistake is to think to themselves that I have created a great youth group experience. And so therefore students are relating and we've accomplished our goal. But relational discipleship, and what we're talking about today, goes way beyond just creating a program. Another mistake is youth leaders often think to themselves, I created a great small group experience where students are connecting with each other and they're able to share deeply. And as great as that is, as great as programs is, as great as connecting to students relationally, the bigger picture of relational discipleship is much more than simply creating connection among students or with leaders or programs or building relationships. Relational discipleship is approaching ministry holistically, paying attention to and developing all of the key discipleship relationships in a student's life. And this is where 10 by 10 comes into this. 10 by 10 is an organization that has done a lot of research and done some things, and they have really identified some ways to engage in relational discipleship very well. And so this on the screen, you might see this quote here. I've pulled off of some of their documents. I think it encapsulates what they're all about really well. Based on 10 by 10's review of research on youth formation, empirical analysis of 25 youth serving organizations, priorities in youth discipleship, and dialogue with local youth leaders and from national thought leaders from 2019 to 2022. 10 by 10 and partners have identified 7 discipleship emphases that fuel relational discipleship radically focused on Jesus. And you can see here, there's the website for 10 by 10, which we'll share later, easy access to that, and a couple of screenshots kind of showing the splash page of 10 by 10. And what I think is really the most important and going to be most useful part for our youth leaders of 10 by 10, which is the 7 discipleship emphases. And so if you go to the website and click on youth leader materials and scroll down a little bit, you'll see this How You'll Grow. And that's where the website unpacks the emphases. I've also got here a QR code that will take you to a Google Doc that is the 10 by 10 7 discipleship emphases with action steps. So if you're following along, you are welcome to put that in your, take your phone out and you can get scan that really quickly, and you'll be able to put it into, you'll be able to follow along and, you'll be able to download it and follow it along. I'm also going to put the direct link in the chat. So if you want to follow that and download it and follow along, you're welcome to. But I think this is an excellent resource that you'll find really useful as we get into what are these discipleship emphases. So I'm going to turn it back over to Robert now, and he is going to just give us a quick, well, not too quick, a good overview of these discipleship emphases. So Robert, take it away.
Awesome. So 10 by 10 is very intentional about making sure that we're collaborating with several partners and people from all across the country to make faith matter more to students. Just a little, I don't know how many of you know about 10 by 10, but it's real quick on how Pine Cove's Foundation did a research a few years ago and found that over 1 million teenagers are walking away from the faith every year, not just the church or a specific denomination, but the faith in general. And there's a tipping point in our culture and in our society. And so we endeavor to turn a tipping point into a turning point. And how we do that is we do that together. And so with a collaborative effort from partners and people of faith and intellect, such as Eric and other, and maybe even some other people on this call, joined in how we cultivate resources and cultivate things to help leaders be relational in the discipleship process of young people. And so broke those things, all those ideas broken down into 7 things. And so today, going to go through the 7 discipleship emphasis that 10 by 10 believes helps the leader create leaders and also bring students into a relationship with Jesus. So the number 1 is personal growth. Personal growth. And personal growth is your health as a leader should not be an afterthought in your life of ministry. It's very essential, not only for you, but for your young people. And leaders who emphasize personal growth intentionally nurture their own spiritual formation and relational health. And 10 by 10, we've created resources to support you as you continue to pursue healthy faith and ministry, spiritually, personally, mentally, physically, and relationally. So that first discipleship emphasis is personal growth. There's no way you can help them if you're not healthy, right? And so just really making sure the personal growth of the leader is very important in that discipleship emphasis. Number two is mentors. Mentors. Relational discipleship happens when young people are connected with mentors in their faith, when multiple caring adults accompany teenagers and model Jesus-centered everyday faith. Our relational discipleship inventory is a 5-minute assessment designed to give you a clear picture of how you can lead your mentors into more meaningful discipleship relationships with your young people. And towards the end of our time, Eric will kind of dive into some more resources that 10 by 10 has for you as a leader. And this is one of them, that relational discipleship inventory that you can take. And this just helps you get a clear picture of how you can lead other mentors. There's an old African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child. And that proverb leans into the thought that it's not just one person. It's not just the mother, the father, the pastor, the teacher, the principal. No, it's a conglomerate of people that come together and help raise the student, raise the child. And so building mentors to help come alongside the work that you're doing to help pour into the life of teenagers is really helpful. I don't know about you, but when I first got into student ministry, helping students, I was so eager. I was so happy. I thought I could save every student. Like I wanted every student to know Jesus, and I was trying to get, every school, every church. It was Purvey against the world. You know, all 38 trillion students in the world, I'm saving all of them, right? And I realized that I was burning myself out because I couldn't do it on my own. It's when I realized that it took other leaders and training other leaders to be mentors to come alongside the work and the effort to help out. So number one is personal growth. Number two is mentors. And speaking of family, I call you guys family. The third emphasis is family. And I speak to you, family. Do me a favor. So I'm a church boy, right? I'm a church boy, and I'm a Baptist church boy. Okay. And so in my world, you know, when preachers or speakers say something, you know, it's the response of the people that lets me know you get it. And so we're not in a personal space. So I need you to use your emoji tab down there in the message box and just let me know that you're receiving what I'm saying. Whatever emoji you can do, the thumbs up, you can do the hand raise, whatever emoji it gives you, put it in the chat. So I know that I'm connecting with you on how we are. I love it. I love it. How we're on how this is connecting with your heart. Okay, so the next emphasis is family. The influential adults in your young people's lives matter to them and to your ministry. In relationally rich ministries, parents and caregivers are connected to a faith community that is shaping their lives at home. But connecting meaningfully with parents and caregivers can be difficult since no two families are the same. 10 by 10 has resources to support you as you grow deeper. Relationships and relational discipleship inventory is designed to help you figure out where to start. Families are so important. The family, the parents, the family structure should be the main disciple maker in the home. And so as a leader, relational discipleship is coming alongside families and helping families have a presence, a faith presence in home on an everyday basis. And so this is a very important emphasis that we believe that leaders should have when it comes to helping young people come to know Jesus. So we have personal growth, mentor, and family. Next, we believe belonging. We want to introduce our young people to faith and the faith community that is for them. both now and the rest of their life. Everybody wants to belong. You want to belong. When you were a kid, you wanted to belong to something that was bigger than you, something that you connected with. And so students have a need to belong. And as you shape your ministries to help this diverse and vibrant generation feel that they belong in your ministry will grow as a place where young people grow in Christ and integrate their faith with their growing perception of themselves. When you take on an attitude and spirit of belonging, you don't necessarily concern yourself with quantity. You lean more into quality. The quality of your ministry is based off of a student belongs. If you have 5 students, do they feel like they belong? If you have 50, do they feel like they belong? 500, they feel like they belong. Do students feel like your ministry is a place of belonging where they get to know Jesus and they get to know him in a real and relevant way, because there are people that show his love in that context and they feel like they have a place to belong. I tell leaders this all the time. If your students know more about you than they know about Jesus, you're missing the point. A place of belonging is not so you can be the rock star. The place of belonging is so Jesus can be their rock, right? A place of belonging is not so the leader can be the rock star, so that the student know that Jesus is their rock. So it's a place of belonging, connectivity, to where students know that I'm connected to a place where Jesus' love is shining bright, and it's what I live my life by and lean on. Next is identity. Our young people are actively working to answer the question, who am I? And so belonging leads right into identity, because as young people grow in Christ, they integrate their faith with their growing perception of themselves. So 10 by 10 has created a youth curriculum to help faith foundations, It's called Faith Foundations. It's a series of videos and discussion guides created to ignite theological dialogue between young people and the adults in their lives. These videos aren't lectures, they're conversations. Conversations that cover the foundations of our faith, but do it in a way that's engaging, relevant, and practical. I don't know about you, but I believe we can do a lot more conversing and a lot more talking. And letting our students know who they are and why they exist and what they exist to do and who they are in Christ. And so that's leaning into that identity piece is very important. And 10 by 10 has created a curriculum called Faith Foundations to help you as a leader engage in discussions and conversations that ignite this theological dialogue. Right. Then we have purpose. Purpose. As disciples of Jesus, we have the opportunity to not only teach our young people about their purpose, but also provide opportunities for them to explore their God-given purpose with us. In relational discipleship, radically focused on Jesus, young people share their faith, serve their neighbors, and seek justice, thereby seeing God's kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. We've created the Relational Discipleship Inventory to give you a clearer picture of how your ministry can support young people as they grow in purpose. Purpose is one of those things that once you discover it, you're unstoppable, right? And purpose is tied into making sure students are exposed. There's a quote that I always tell leaders here in Texas, because I also work with Texas Baptists here as a next gen strategist here in the state. And when I train leaders, I tell them that exposure expels ignorance. Exposure expels ignorance. The more you expose kids to different people, to different places, and to different things, it allows them to tap into what God has put inside of them, and it activates their purpose. And so the more you share, the more you serve, the more you seek, these things allow students to embrace their purpose and who God has called them to be. And so as we look at relational discipleship, one of the biggest emphasis is helping students find their purpose. When I know I belong, when I know who I am, now what do I do? What do I do with it? And exposing them to different ways of sharing, serving, and seeking allows them to discover their purpose. Emoji me up if all that makes sense. Emoji me if I'm making sense, if all of this is connecting with you, just emoji me up in the chat. So purpose. Awesome. Then our last is lead change. As you invest in relational discipleship radically focused on Jesus, your ministry will change. But we want our young people to be supported in their faith beyond youth ministry. We want to see flourishing young people in every aspect of our church communities, and getting there often means change. We've created resources to support you as you strategically influence your ministry and faith community towards more effective relational and intergenerational discipleship. The Relational Discipleship Kickstart is a great place to start. You want to lead change. You as a leader, one of the discipleship emphasis is to be a leader of change. That if we want to see this generation do great things for God, we have to be the change that we want to see, right? And so we exemplify and we lead change in front and with our students. So as we do this together, collaboratively with the work and the heart, we see them change, we see culture change, and we see this tipping point become a turning point as students of all walks of life, all denominations, all faiths, come in a deeper relationship with Jesus, and they begin to change our world for Christ. So those are the 7 discipleship emphases. Hopefully I didn't go too quick, Eric. Hopefully I did in a pace where everybody can get it. I know this is recording, so people can go back and watch it too. But those are what we believe at 10 by 10 are 7 emphases that can help a leader in relational discipleship, that can help a student fall more in love with Jesus and their faith.
No, that was great, Robert. That was exactly what I was hoping for. You gave a really good flyover of what it is and what those emphases are about. And I'll tell you, and everyone that's watching, one of the really fun things is I've gotten to know 10 by 10 and have shared these discipleship emphases around is I have had only 100% enthusiasm around these emphases. There's people are really excited about what they see there, and they can really see how it can apply to their youth ministry, and not just the student, like one-on-one or day-to-day encounters with students, but this larger kind of picture of setting a framework for youth ministry that'll thrive, and for accomplishing the bigger picture that you mentioned of influencing what's statistics tell us is 1 million students that are walking away from their faith every year after they leave high school. So a couple of things, and feel free to speak to this if you don't mind, that I think might be helpful just to unpack a little bit about 10 by 10. One of them, and this is going to go off script a little bit, so I'm sorry if I put you on the spot, but 10 by 10 does have a few priorities that I think are really great as well, that I think feed into this. One of them is that it's a collaborative effort. And Robert, you can tell me probably better than I do, but I think it's, how many partners are there? Do you know off the top of your head how many partners there are?
We launched with about 115 partners.
115.
From over 40 different denominations.
There you go. So 115 partners. That includes denominations, parachurch organizations, resourcing organizations, all this kind of stuff. But when we went to that launch summit, it felt like I was in a room of kind of like the who's who of youth ministry in North America, and that was pretty awesome. It was a great, pretty cool experience. So that's one of the things I love about this is that it's a collaborative effort, that it is intended to be done in partnership with lots of other people. And so we, as the Evangelical Covenant, are an official partner, and that kind of plays out in a few different ways. One is we get to be friends with Robert, other people like him, and have direct access to the resources we're going to be able to use them within our youth ministry resourcing. We'll talk about how that's going to unfold in just a little bit. But the partnership means we're also hand in hand with others. And I love that this kind of like ecumenical, cross-denominational lines, coming together around a common cause. To me, is one of the most powerful aspects of 10 by 10. And the idea that as more and more people adopt these emphases, these discipleship emphases, it'll have a lasting impact on students' lives. That's really cool to me. Another priority is that the 10 by 10 has very intentionally looked at how does the organization itself engage a diverse variety of leaders, organizations, and students. And that's something that's really exciting to me as well. I know it's a priority of the covenant that we really embrace and pursue diversity in everything that we do. And on top of that, it is going beyond some aspects of diversity around race and gender and stuff like that, but it wants to be a really helpful resource for all youth ministry leaders and churches, and regardless of size, right? And so there's a strong emphasis on the volunteer and bivocational leader here, and that these resources would be something to be useful to empower them. So do you want to do you have any more comments on that, Robert? You want to unpack either of those two things, the 10 by 10's commitment to both diversity and to volunteer and bivocational youth ministry leaders?
Yeah, just we believe when every study show that Gen Z and Gen Alpha will be the most diverse generations we've seen. And they are in search of places and people that will accept them for who they are, where they come from, but also be able to love them as people. And so what we believe is that the more we come together with all of our different socioeconomic backgrounds, ethnicities, different parts of the country, our upbringing, we believe we bring all that to the table. And yes, we may be different colors from different states, different backgrounds, but one common denominator we all have, that we want every student to fall in love with Jesus. And so that's where we all galvanize around. And so when we come to the table, we drop our denominational hats, we drop our ethnic hats, we drop everything, and we bring our hearts to the table and say, hey, how can we get students to fall in love with Jesus? How can we get families to fall in love with Jesus? And that just opens up such a beautiful picture of heaven, right? And so one thing Eric talked about at the launch, one thing that I really love to see, that you looked across the room, you saw people that were from different parts of the country, different theological understandings, backgrounds, denominations, but everybody was together on one focus. And it was so beautiful just to see Latino brothers and sisters, Asian brothers, white brothers, black. And I kept using this word family because we're all brothers and sisters in Christ. We've all been adopted into the family of God. And so I really, when I say brothers and sisters, when I say family, I really mean you're my family, right? And it just felt like family. So that's what we want to cascade down and to share to organizations and churches across the nation, that, hey, we're in this together, and we want to have relational discipleship that's radically focused on Jesus and make faith matter more to over 10 million students in the next 10 years.
That's excellent. Yeah, you're right. Being in that room was awesome. And I hope that the feeling, the sense that was in that room will grow way beyond it as we continue to partner together with others. And I'm looking forward to hearing stories about our youth ministry leaders in their cities, maybe sharing with their friends, I'm checking out this 10 by 10 thing and putting some of it into practice. And they find out that they are as well, because they found out about it from their denominational leader or whoever they're connected to, as it becomes this growing collaborative movement. So, okay, what I want to do now is shift gears a little bit. And as I do so, just a reminder, if you have questions, put them into the chat. And at the end, Robert and I will do our best to answer them. But I want to answer a kind of a question that I have. And that is, how does 10 by 10 develop these 7 discipleship relational discipleship emphases. And so there are quite a few resources to do that. So to do so, what I'm going to do is share actually the website. So here we are looking at 10x10's website. I've already clicked on the little menu here where it gives you the choice for, do you want to look at something for youth leaders, senior leaders, partners, or to contact us? Jeff Palmberg asked earlier, what's the difference between youth leaders and senior leaders? That was a really good question because he's both. But youth leaders is really for the people that are on the ground working with students every day. These are resources for them. Senior leaders is designed for more of like a lead pastor of a church or an organization that is working with students. And then partners are people like us that are partnering along with 10x10, but there's a kind of a different category of partner we'll talk about in a moment, which are people that are offering deep dives. And so if you as an individual might be interested in, you have a resource that you think this would be great, fit into 10x10 well, you could click on the partners to find out about how to engage there. But this is the section for youth leaders. And so the first kind of little bit of way you can unpack these 7 discipleship emphasis is to take the quiz. So the step 1, you see right here, there's a quiz. If you click on that, it takes you to a 5-minute quiz. And it kind of asks a little about yourself, what your priorities are, what your context is. And that will generate an email. And in that email, we'll have some quick tips that are customized to you based on how you answer that quiz. And then it'll also point you towards what in the Relational Discipleship Kickstart you might want to jump into first. These quick tips are really helpful, like 1-page topics on specific challenges and questions that a lot of youth leaders have. And you'll see them coming up because we are going to be adopting them as some of our resources that we use on CovYouth.com. So you'll see probably each month we'll be sharing one of those quick tips that relates to our topic for CovYouth, and that will be something then you'll see there. It'll engage and it'll again point you back to the relational discipleship emphases. Robert, feel free to interrupt anytime if you want to add to these as I go along these steps. So that's kind of the first really easy kind of baby step into all of this, is to do the quick quiz. It is a quick quiz, but it's just called quiz. Okay. Second step is that they have a free relational discipleship inventory. So you click on this, and it's a bit. It's still very short and easy to do, but it's a little bit more involved questionnaire, and it will identify some of your strengths and growth areas in ministry, and then that will result in another email that will more specifically suggest here's where you should jump into the 7 discipleship emphases, and it will encourage you to take part in a relational discipleship kickstart. And that is the next one. And this is where we in the covenant are going to spend most of our time and energy promoting to you and among all of our youth ministry leaders. The kickstart is a 10-session kind of video-based resource for you to walk through that will take you through those 7 discipleship emphasis and help you learn how to develop them in your ministry. I'm going to skip down to the bottom of this webpage because here's a kind of a peek at what the Relational Discipleship Kickstart is about. So those are the topics for each of the 10 sessions. So that Kickstart is something that you can do on your own, and it'll be great. It'll be super valuable for you to do all on your own, but it'll be even better to do with other youth leaders. And I have some really good news, and that is that we are going to be putting together Relational Discipleship Kickstart cohorts for our covenant youth workers. We're going to have a pilot one that's actually going to kick off in the next couple of weeks in early November and go through midwinter. And that will give us some really good feedback for launching it more generally at midwinter. So that's our plan. I'm going to share how to get involved with that at the end if you're interested. But the Kickstart is something you can do on your own, but it's even better to do it with others. And so we're going to have that cohort coming up. And then the step number 4 is to get equipped with deep dives. And so the idea here is that if you've done the Kickstart, or you've at least looked through the 7 discipleship emphasis, and you decide this is an area that I want to work on, I want to say develop that idea of identity and helping students to really discover identity, then deep dives are resources that partner organizations have put together that you can utilize in order to go deeper in that subject and take it a little bit further. Right now, there's quite a few in there, and I encourage you to go in and check it out. You don't have to take the relational discipleship Kickstart to start accessing the deep dives, but they are there for you to look at now and start checking out. One thing I'll mention at this point is that everything that 10 by 10 has put together, the relational discipleship Kickstart, the 7 discipleship emphasis, the quick tips, all these quizzes and assessments, is all completely free, which is mind-boggling to me. And what's one of the things that makes me really excited about partnering with 10 by 10, because this is not a money-making organization. They are not looking to us to say, hey, buy our stuff so that we can survive. This is simply people that have done solid research and believe this is what is going to help youth ministry to thrive and turn the tide of students walking away from their faith in the future. And so they've secured funding and resourcing to get it together and make this happen. Now, the one exception is that some of the deep dives, because they're with partner organizations, those organizations do charge. So don't be surprised if you see that. Otherwise, everything that 10 by 10 offers is completely free. And everything that we offer through the covenant with our cohorts and stuff will be free as well. So that's pretty exciting for me. I mentioned this before. Here is the kind of descriptions of the 7 relational discipleship emphases that you can find. Each one has a little pop-up. You can learn more about them. Robert did a really good job of describing them earlier. And then, boom, you can jump right into the quiz from here. So the last little bit on this page that I wanted you to see is they highlight here this Faith Foundations course. And so this is a lot of 10 by 10 is like philosophical work and kind of understanding where you are, making sure you're putting your energy in the right place. But there are like practical resource pieces that you can use. And this is one of them. It's right here. And it's a great one. This is a series that you can download and use with your students tomorrow. I mean, it's ready to go and very easy to use. So what you see here is that 10 by 10 as they approach this question of influencing our students so that they hold on to their faith as they go into adulthood. They're providing like philosophy, foundational bricks of understanding, like here's how ministries put together so they'll thrive, all the way down to very practical resources that say, here is something you can do with your students, and it's ready to go so you can put it to work even this week in your ministry. So those are the kind of suite of resources that 10 by 10 is offering to help develop this idea of relational discipleship and to implement the relational discipleship emphases. I know it's kind of a lot there. Robert, do you have anything you would add to it, or any of those that you would want to like specifically highlight?
Well, I put my information in the chat, so you guys can reach out to me. I put my email address, my number, also just social media handle as well there. But a great job of going through everything. And here in my role, I'm excited to pick the brains and connect with the hearts of leaders from around the country that want to be on mission with us about making faith matter more to students. This is like, once again, 10 by 10 is a collaborative effort. We're not in competition, we're in collaboration. So whatever we can do to bring light to what you're doing and how we can come alongside and help the effort you're doing, that's why we're here. And so all of the resources, like Eric said, all the resources that we have are absolutely free except for some of the deep dives, but it's something you can start sharing. One thing that we're doing now, and I want you guys to make sure I get your information as well, is I'm putting together some things to help leaders take what Eric is doing, taking leaders within their organizations through the RDK, through the Relational Discipleship Kickstart, and get some information back on that so we can make sure that it's actually helping leaders and it's actually something they can lean into and grow from. So, but a great job on this on describing and showing that, Eric. But yeah,
you bet. Well, so speaking of that, here is another slide with a big old QR code. So this is a link to the sign up form if you would like to be part of our Relational Discipleship Kickstart pilot cohort. And so, like I said, it's going to run from November to January. It's going to be 10 sessions. We are in the process right now of kind of massaging and figuring out how it's going to work, doing it together in a covenant way. The material on its own is kind of designed so it takes about 30 minutes a week doing it on your own. But we're going to do a couple of things where we'll at least meet together once and have some opportunities to engage with each other through our CovYouth platform. So Robert, I've been having just a blast talking with my colleagues on our youth ministry leadership team about ways we can make this cohort really, be covenant, really work well for us. And I'd love to chat with you about, some of those ideas as we get it going. We're going to do a lot of experimenting and learning as we go through this pilot. So if that sounds good to you, I would encourage you to check it out. I will say this, a few of our conference coaches and myself went through another pilot of this this fall, earlier, like kind of in the summer, early fall. We only did like 3 of the lessons. It was a way to just kind of for 10 by 10 to kind of learn more about it and, refine what the Kickstart will look like. And they were fantastic. And as I've gotten more, I keep going into more lessons. I keep going. I'm not just joking here. I'm not just saying this. Every lesson I keep thinking, wow, that was the best one. That was so helpful. And then I'll go to the next one like, oh no, now that was actually the best one. It's so helpful. And so this is where like I get really excited about our partnership with 10 by 10, because I really feel that the more of our youth leaders that go through this Kickstart and start to implement these ideas and philosophies and programs into their youth ministry, it's going to have a significant and serious impact on students' lives for the long term. So I can't wait. I can't wait to see how that.
And I can't wait to hear back from the leaders that go through it. And of course, we'll talk, because there are some things that we are. I want to make sure I put in your hands, because we want to get feedback from the leaders that go through it, so we can start sharing their hearts and sentiments with leaders throughout the nation. So make sure I get with you on that. But that's amazing. Good.
Okay, so we're going to move into a question and answer time. So if you have questions for Robert, feel free to put them in there, and I might chime in as well. I was privileged with this summer being asked I was basically contracted to write a partnership toolkit for 10 by 10 to help get ready for the launch. And so I got in pretty deep, and I feel like I understand a few things as well. So I'm happy to help with that too. But so while you type in questions, I just have one more slide to share with you. And this is going to be helpful for people that may be watching this, if they're catching it on YouTube later or whatever, because we will, on our CovYouth posting for this video, we will have all these links. But if you aren't on CovYouth right now and want to follow this QR code, it'll take you to a simple Google Doc that I put together with some quick links in it. So it'll take you to the 10 by 10 website. It will have a link to the Discipleship Kickstart pilot cohort sign up, the one I just had before, but it's just going to be on this link. And then that handout that we did earlier in the session that talks about the 7 discipleship emphases along with the action steps, a link to that is on this page as well. All right. So let's get to see if there's any questions and answers, questions, and then we'll see if there's answers. I'm looking at the chat and I haven't seen any. And so if you have one, feel free to put it in. Oh, here's one just popped up. Okay, Angela. Welcome, Angela. Glad you're here. She asks, are the quiz and inventory recommended for the head youth leader to complete, or volunteers also, or as a team? That's a really good question. Robert, you want to?
I think it would actually work for all, Angela. Like anyone working directly with students, I think that quiz would help see where they are and see where their strengths are and kind of where they go from there. So for instance, if you are a youth leader and your volunteers take the quiz, seeing where they are as a volunteer leader gives you an idea of how to even help them grow, right? So I think that all of them, the youth leader, the volunteer, and the team can take that inventory to kind of see who they are, and it can become a discussion within that team on how to get the best use out of their volunteer, or even how to help them cultivate their leadership skills.
Yep, I agree. And they're like I said earlier, they don't take very long to do, so it might be worthwhile for the youth leader to do it first, get a sense of what what they are, and then share that with their volunteers and go from there. It's good. If there are other questions, feel free to put them in there. While we wait to see if there are any more, I'll circle around and put Robert on the spot a little bit, because I didn't warn him about this question, but we've mainly talked about the youth leader resources. Could you speak at all to the senior resources that are available, and how 10x10 hopes to in fact impact senior leadership beyond just the youth leader?
So the senior leaders, we want them to become advocates, right? Advocates for youth leaders. And so there's some resources, like some outlines. And of course, we're not trying to tell pastors or leaders how to preach, right? But it just gives them some insight and intellect on what's going on in the generation and what's going on with students, and it helps guide them in on a larger platform. So sermon series, ideas for maybe meetings with other leaders in their community that want to focus more on other senior leaders in the community. They want to focus on senior leaders. So there on senior leader resources on the website, there's just some customizable sermon outlines and also some articles that kind of help senior leaders understand where their youth leaders are and where students are. Because, the natural progression sometimes as leaders get into those senior roles, they forget about what happens in student land, right? they forget about what happens, but there's so much going on there that the students aren't the church of tomorrow, they're the church of today. And so it's helping senior leaders just tap more into that. That helps them understand why the youth leader may be asking for more money in their budget, right? Why the youth leader may be wanting to do more in the community. It kind of gives them an understanding of the why. So yeah, hopefully I answered that question, Eric.
Yeah, that was great. And I'm just looking at the website here, like an example of some of those articles are connecting faith to purpose, how Gen Z hopes to make an impact, from screen time to AI, 4 findings about Gen Z and tech, and exploring Gen Z's approach to religion and spirituality. Those are great topics, and those are great articles. I've read all of them. Highly recommend it to everybody. They're certainly not limited to senior leaders, but one of the things when I work with churches, I often find like older senior pastors asking me, how do I understand the next generation? So there you go. Got some resources there. So, well, I don't see any more questions. And so I'm going to start moving us towards close. I want to say thank you so much to Robert for coming. I do see one more question real quick here. What resources does 10x10 have on partnering with parents who currently aren't engaged?
And so there aren't any direct parent resources right now. That's actually something that's in our 10x10 incubator. And so we're actually going to be leaning on some of our partners to help cultivate those things. So at this moment, we don't have any resources on how to partner with parents, but it is in the works.
Yeah. And that specific question, I know I've heard talked about around here.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that reveals, well, I guess we haven't talked about, is that 10x10 is going to grow, right? This is just the beginning, and the suite of resources that are available, especially through the deep dives, will continue to grow beyond that. Angela asked another really good question. Is Fuller Youth Institute one of the collaborators? Is Fuller involved in 10x10 at all?
Not really. But no, Fuller is one of our main partners and collaborators there.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, if you do the Relational Discipleship Kickstart, it's all hosted on Fuller's website. It's like they use their educational systems to make it happen. So it started with a movement out of Fuller, and it was kind of intentionally decoupled from Fuller as a way to to make it a little bit more, ecumenical and collaborative. But yeah, Fuller is very, very involved.
And
Robert's email is at fuller.edu. So,
right.
yeah.
So here's a little insight, and I'll say this for you guys. 10 by 10, the more we collaborate, the more we work together, the more we begin to make this a tipping point, a turning point, the further away 10 by 10 gets from the FYI look. But Fuller is where we were spawned out of, right? But the more and more we collaborate, the more and more we work, the further and further away we get away from it, which is because we have a 10-year journey ahead of us, and we're in year 1, week 3. Right? Officially week 3 of our 10-year journey. But
16 days into it.
Yeah, so we are.
Good. Okay. Well, Robert, thank you so much for your time. It's been really, really fun getting to know you and spending this time together. It's been really fun. You did a really good job. So thank you so much for being here.
No, thank all of you. Look forward to having more connections.
Good. Well, for everyone that's watching, thank you for your participation. Pay attention on CovYouth.com. We're going to be opening up a dedicated 10 by 10 space soon. And then we will also be rolling out more and more about 10 by 10 and our the 7 relational discipleship emphases. It's kind of a mouthful to say over and over again, but we'll be rolling out more and more ways you can engage with that in the coming months and at the Next Gen conference in midwinter. And if you're interested in participating in that pilot cohort, sign up. So I'm going to end and say thank you again to Robert and everyone to share with us. And I'll put up this slide with the quick links so you can connect with it if you'd like to. Thank you again, Robert, and everyone for joining us. Have a good day.